Hey, second grade, Mrs. Shannon back to work on Wolf Wolf with you. Yesterday I read this story aloud and I told you to be thinking about the problem and the solution that the character faces in this story. So now we're going to go over it together and work in our composition notebook. Reminding ourselves about the plot, which is the events that happen in the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Sometimes the plot is often about the problem in the story. The solution is how the characters solve the problem by the end of the story. So let's read to figure out what was Wolf's problem at the beginning of our story. We will be using this graphic organizer to help us organize our thoughts. 3 boxes, one small one at the top and one small one at the bottom for problem and solution, and then a larger box in the middle to keep all of the steps that the character takes to get to their solution. Here's an example of what you should fill in for your composition notebook on the next blank page. At the top, write today's date, November 13th, 2020, and title this page Problem and Solution. Underneath the title, you will also write the title of this book, which is Wolf Wolf. Then you will draw your graphic organizer, problem, steps to solution, and the solution. Make sure your boxes are big enough that you can fit at least 4 steps in the steps to solution box. I'm going to give you some time to create your page, so press pause and then press play when you're ready to move on. All right, we're at the beginning of our story. I remember that this wolf was an old wolf. He did not have very many friends, and he was trying to get food from his garden. But there were weeds everywhere. There were so many weeds, he can't even find his vegetables. And his stomach growled, and he rubbed his empty stomach. So I think already we've identified a problem that this wolf is having. It sounds like he's hungry and there's too many weeds in his garden. Would you agree, second graders? Let's write that down for our problem in our composition notebook. The wolf is hungry. Remember to start every sentence with a capital letter and end with a period. Go ahead and write this down in your composition notebook now. Press pause and then press play when you're ready to move on. Now that we've identified the problem that the wolf is hungry, we are going to see all of the steps that the wolf takes to try to solve his problem, to find food. And on this page, I'm reminded through the pictures that the wolf hears someone calling his name. And he heard someone calling his name. He tried to listen and he thought, oh, who is calling me? Maybe they have some food to share. A mere morsel would do, he said. So he started to follow this voice to go find the person who was calling his name because he thought, maybe they have food to share. He's hungry after all, right? So he climbs the mountain searching for the person who was calling his name to see if they have food to share. That's the first step he takes to solving his problem. So number 1 is he goes to see if the person calling his name has food. Remember, second graders, make sure that your boxes have room to have at least 4 steps in our solution box. So number 1, he goes to see if the person calling his name has food. So pause and press play when you are ready to move on. And second graders, does the person calling his name have food? Not exactly, but he is in charge of watching a bunch of goats in a meadow. But the wolf is upset. He climbed all the way to the top and there was no food that he could take. So he rests his feet in some water. He heard the boy calling his name yet again. Is there another wolf taking those tasty goats? and he had to go back and see. But he was tricked yet again. There was not another wolf there taking the goats, and instead he had walked up the mountain again for nothing. So he decided, it's time to come up with a trick of my own. So he's devising a plan that will help him get some food. That sounds like another step to solving his problem of being hungry. So our second step is that the wolf plans a trick to play on the boy. We don't know what it is yet, but we know he's got a plan in his head. Pause this video to fill in your next step to the solution and press play when you are ready. So yet again, he hears the boy yell out, "Wolf, wolf," again. And once more, he climbs up to the meadow. And this is where he offers his plan to the boy. He asks the boy to deliver a goat to his home. He says, "Can I have just one goat?" That way he's trying to make a deal with the boy. And that way the villagers will really believe the boy. He asked the boy to bring him a goat to him the next day. Tie it to the fence post, he said. So this was his plan. Step 3. The wolf tells the boy to bring a goat to his garden. That way, the wolf will have a goat to eat. And the boy delivers. He delivers a goat to the wolf. And the wolf is so happy because the goat is actually eating all of the weeds in his garden to reveal the vegetables that are below. And I can see from this picture that our wolf is happy. He's got a smile on his face. And he says, "Good fortune at last. Today I'll feast like an old wolf should." But then he noticed that he was eating the weeds. And the goat eats all the weeds in the garden. That is the step to his solution, because now the wolf can see all of the wonderful vegetables he has in the garden, and he can eat his food. In the end, the wolf does not eat the goat, instead keeping him around to help him in his garden. That way he can have food all year round. Sure sounds to me like he solved his problem, and that it was his solution. The wolf decides to keep the goat so he will always have vegetables to eat. So go ahead, second graders, and write in our solution. The wolf decides to keep the goat so he will always have vegetables to eat. That sure sounds like he solved his problem. If he was hungry at the beginning, he's not hungry now because now he has food to eat from his garden with the help of the goat. Awesome work today, second graders. As you read stories, think about, does your main character have a problem at the beginning of the story that he or she needs to solve by the end? Think about your independent reading books that you're reading for our weekly reading log. Do those stories have problems and solutions? Be on the lookout as you read on your own.